Coach, just what are your thoughts on the edge rusher room in general and kind of the new makeup of that group?
Yeah, a lot of new faces. I think all of them very eager. Right now, I mean, 5 practices in, we're just still learning, kind of how to do things. Right, that's kind of the goal of spring. How do we practice? How do we take the field? How do we leave the field? What's the tempo of the drill? Those type of things. So, but right now, very eager group. Tremendous buy-in thus far. Very happy with the effort. As we get deeper into spring and then in through the summer, that thing will start to take its shape. But right now, I mean, a lot of eager new bodies out there.
And with Darius, just what are your thoughts on how he performed last year and where do you think he can kind of take that step up this season?
Yeah, just I thought he was very solid for us last year, coming back from the injury from 2 years ago. So it was great to have him a part of us. Still continuing to develop as a pass rusher. He has such unique skill sets in regards to that. But picked up right where he left off in terms of hand violence in the run game. Progressing very well right now.
How different is it this year from last year at this point when, last year you had a bunch of returning starters, a bunch of guys who kind of knew what the setup was going to be versus, like you say, this year with all the new faces?
Yeah, I mean, like spring, you always kind of go back, foundationally, right? And you kind of peel it back and you don't assume anything, whether you got a bunch of guys that are coming back that have been here a couple of years or brand new to the program. You don't assume anything and you start from ground zero. But yeah, there's a lot of new faces out there, and so spring has been really cool. In regards to seeing these guys, a lot of them from the transfer portal. You watch them on tape, you see them in drills, and now we get an opportunity to go out and actually work with them on their craft. It's been really fun so far.
Who are some of the new guys that have stuck out to you and impressed you the most?
Oh, I mean, nobody in particular. I mean, like I said, we're just 5 days into it, right? I mean, it is like I said, like how do we take the field? What is tag tempo? What is thud tempo? All of those things. I mean, it's learning how to go about doing those things. We spend a lot of time foundationally, so we don't have to go back and reteach those type of things as we get into the ending of spring and then in the summer OTAs. But yeah, effort-wise, as the unit has been, we've been very happy in regards to that and understanding how we do things here and those guys buying into those things. Those are the important things right now.
What are the biggest challenges when it comes to replacing, as many as you guys lost?
I think just creating the buy-in, right? And last year's transfer group did a great job of that coming in here. This is the Mizzou way how we do things. I think that this group has been the same, right? Very eager to learn, very eager to please. Guys have spent tremendous time, out here in the indoor, on their own, walkthroughs, those type of things. And so that's the first thing, right? Just bringing the work ethic, being a guy that's eager to buy in, and been very happy with that thus far.
Coach, we just heard from Marquise Gracial, and he talked about stepping up as a leader in the D-line room. How important is it to have those leaders returning, especially early in spring?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, those guys that have been around, they have to be the torchbearers. This is how we do things, and not just verbally, but being able to show it, and emulate. And then those other guys need to emulate what's going on, and be able to see it. So you need that core of guys that can actually lead by example also, and we rely on those veteran dudes to be able to do that for us.
There's been a lot of turnover on your staff as well. What's it been like working with some of the new coaches to kind of work with these new players and kind of develop a new defense?
Yeah, I mean, we've been blessed on our side of the ball. Like we really haven't had anybody, turnover-wise now. So that's been huge. The continuity of the staff, from year one to year two, we just lost DJ that first year, and then we brought in Chop to help us out up front. I mean, that's been great, and no different than the players, right? The new coaches that come in, right? It's about learning how we do things, what the verbiage is, what the terminology is, those type of things, and been very happy with that. But the continuity with the core of the defensive staff has been awesome, and I think that's led to a little bit better of an understanding in regards to 5 days in terms of how we go about doing things.
That star position was so synonymous with Dalen for like 3
Yeah.
years here. So what's I know it's early, but what's your vision for that position in a post Dalen world?
Well, same expectations. I mean, the schematics, haven't really changed. And again, like I said, spring isn't about that, right? It's about individual player development, right? We touch in silos, in terms of what our coverage silos are. Some of our front structures, some of our pressures, but we don't get into all of that. I mean, we're trying to build a foundation But certainly at the star position, you know, it's going to be great competition. We brought some good bodies in to do that, as well as some returners. And so, you know, that'll remain to be seen in terms of how we progress, right?
What have been your early impressions of just the secondary as a whole?
Eager, kind of like what we talked about before. A lot of young faces out there, especially in Coach Pogue's room with the corners. Some of those guys are really flashing. I think they're talented. But again, like, how quickly can we get involved in regards to how we call things here? Like, so much of it is like the language, right? Like, you just call cover 3 and you can go to every place and it's going to be called different things. Some of the buzzwords that we use in regards to our coverages. And so those guys being able to understand those things and being able to transfer it and taking it to the grass from a walkthrough, from a meeting room, you know, and being able to actually apply those things. I mean, it's a learning progress. And that's the cool thing about spring, is it's totally like a lab in there for you. And you can tweak and fine tune things, right? And as a coach, you're constantly going back looking at, how can I teach that? How can I verbalize that better? How can we set up a walkthrough that maybe better allows these guys to come along, right? And so, but yeah, that's the fun part about spring as a coach.
There's a couple positions, thinking defensive tackle and some of those safety spots, where it looks like you're going to be reliant on guys that have developed through the program.
Yeah.
Was that intentional when you sat down in the off season? You looked at who you had personnel wise, or was that just kind of how it panned out?
Well, yeah, I mean, you always try to plan for that, right? And we've had some guys, you know, younger players that have played roles, and now all of a sudden those younger players become older players, like was mentioned, you know, with Keys, you know, and every spring invariably there's somebody that makes that jump, right? And we had that last year, you know, with Marquise. Had a great spring. Where he was kind of a younger guy, had a great spring that transitioned into an off season, and then all of a sudden, you know, he was a really good player for us last year. So you're looking for those guys, you know, to make those jumps, right? Because there's opportunities, right? As people move out the program, there's opportunities, you know, in terms of playing and you know, so that's kind of what spring is. But yeah, it's always critical for those type of things, and you want to try to see, you know, as a coach, you know, like, you're always anxious. Hey, this guy's on the verge of really figuring it out and flipping it, and so that's what we get 15 opportunities in spring to do.
Coach,
2 more.
Santana Banner is one of your key returners. What have you seen from him so far in spring, and what are you looking to see from him when we enter the fall?
The game has really slowed down for him. You know, he was a transfer in last year that played a ton of meaningful reps, very productive player for us a year ago. And there were times, even, you know, through mid-season, you know, that you're still trying to figure some things out, right? And I thought it really started coming along the last couple of weeks of the season. You kind of see it in the bowl game where he just felt a little bit more comfortable. And so, you know, you want to see that, you know, now that it's like the 5th or 6th time going through the installs, and now this language is something that I'm familiar with, right? That I'm more verbal now, and I can play a little bit more uninhibited, right? And so that's the thing that, you know, as you progress in the program, right, you start to turn your brain off a little bit more, and you can be a little bit more instinctual. And so looking forward to that with Banner, because he's so much more comfortable right now than he was a year ago. So, you know, that's really positive, trending in the right direction.
Last one. Coach, how have you kind of developed your approach to teaching that language every year? How much has that changed over the course of your career?
It changes. It changes quite a bit. Like when we transitioned here, you know, I learned the language that was here in place, because it's a lot easier for me to figure it out than, you know, the 60 dudes in the room, right? And so, but yeah, every off season you're kind of looking at ways that, hey, how can I teach that? Is there a term that I can teach that better? And then you go back and you watch all of your cut-ups from the off season, the things you did well, the things you need to work on, right? And then you kind of reshape these things. And, you know, I mean, football coaching wise, it's always like a search for finding better ways to build a mousetrap, right? And so that's kind of what what the spring is about, right? Like setting up drills. How do we progress this? You know, what's the proper progression from this to this to this to get us to that end point, right? And so, you know, you feel like you're always evolving as a coach, but specifically, I mean, you know, nothing off the top of my head, but, you know, you either get better or you don't exist anymore.
All right, Coach. Thank you.
All right.